When park ranger Tobias Hendricks pulled a nurse's badge from a beaver dam on Mount Rainier, he had no idea it would solve one of the mountain's greatest mysteries. The badge belonged to Meredith Holbrook, a retired nurse who vanished 5 years ago. Her car was found in the parking lot, but she had disappeared like smoke. For 5 years, her daughter Luna believed her mother was dead. Now this rusted badge sits in Tobias's hand. But it's just the beginning. The beaver dam held more than just a badge. Hidden in the mud was something that would reveal the shocking truth about why Meredith really disappeared. If Meredith died 5 years ago, how did fresh footprints appear near her belongings last week? And what secret was so terrible that a loving mother would let her family think she was dead? The morning mist hung over Reflection Lakes like a grey blanket. Park ranger Tobias Hendricks pulled his truck to a stop and grabbed his gear. Another day checking beaver dams after the big storm. He'd done this job for 12 years, but some days still felt like the first. Tobias walked down the muddy trail. His boots squelched in the wet earth. The storm 3 days ago had been brutal. Trees were down everywhere. The beavers would be busy fixing their homes. He reached the first dam and whistled low. The water was higher than he'd ever seen it. Branches and debris stuck out like broken bones. The beavers had worked hard, but Mother Nature had worked harder. "Let's see what we've got here," he said to himself. Tobias pulled on his rubber gloves and waded into the cold water. His job was to clear anything that might cause flooding. Old logs, plastic bottles, whatever, didn't belong. He grabbed a thick branch and pulled. It wouldn't budge. Something was wrapped around it, something that caught the morning light. Tobias reached deeper into the tangle of sticks and mud. His fingers touched metal, cold and smooth. He worked it loose carefully, the way you'd remove a splinter. When it came free, his heart nearly stopped. A badge, a nurse's badge. The metal was scratched and dull, but he could still read the words, Meredith Holbrook, RN, Sacred Heart Hospital. Tobias stared at the badge in his shaking hand. That name. He knew that name. Every ranger on Mount Rainier knew that name. 5 years ago, Meredith Holbrook had vanished without a trace. The memories came flooding back. Tobias had been part of the search team. For 3 weeks they'd combed every trail, every ridge, every hidden valley. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers, hundreds of people looking for one missing woman. They'd found her car in the Paradise parking lot. Her keys were still inside. Her purse sat on the passenger seat with her wallet, phone and car keys. But Meredith Holbrook had disappeared like smoke. She was 67 years old. A retired nurse who loved hiking alone. Her daughter said she hiked Mount Rainier every month, sometimes twice. She knew these trails better than most rangers, but the mountain had swallowed her whole. Now 5 years later, her badge sat in Tobias's palm like a ghost. His radio crackled. "Hendricks, you copy?" Tobias fumbled for the radio. "Yeah, base, I'm here. How's the dam situation looking?" Tobias stared at the badge. "I need to make a call. Personal business. Copy that. Check in when you're done." Tobias climbed out of the water and sat on a fallen log. He pulled out his cell phone with shaking fingers. The number was still in his contacts. Detective Rosa Salvatore. She'd handled the Holbrook case. The phone rang 3 times. "Salvatore. Rosa. It's Tobias Hendricks. Mount Rainier Ranger." "Tobias, how are you? Don't tell me you found another body." "Not a body. But I found something. Something from the Holbrook case." Silence on the other end. "Then, what did you find?" "Her badge. Her nurse's badge. I pulled it out of a beaver dam at Reflection Lakes." More silence. Tobias could hear Rosa breathing. "That's impossible," she finally said. Reflection Lakes is 5 miles from where her car was parked. How would her badge get there? I don't know, but it's here. It's real. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming up. Rosa, there's something else. This badge didn't just fall in the water. It was tangled up tight in the dam. Like it had been there for years. What are you thinking? Tobias looked around the quiet lake. Morning birds were singing. The water lapped gently at the shore. It looked peaceful, but something wasn't right. I'm thinking if her badge ended up here, maybe she did too. Maybe we were looking in the wrong place all along. I'll be there in 2 hours. Don't let anyone else near that dam. Tobias hung up and stared at the badge again. Meredith Holbrook's face smiled back at him from his memory. Kind eyes behind wire glasses. Grey hair always pulled back neat. She'd visited the ranger station once to ask about trail conditions. Such a sweet lady, his partner had said. Hope she stays safe out there. But she hadn't stayed safe. She'd vanished like morning mist. And now, 5 years later, the mountain was giving up its first clue. Tobias stood and looked at the Beaver Dam with new eyes. If it held one secret, what other secrets might be hidden in its muddy depth? He had a feeling this was just the beginning. Detective Rosa Salvatore arrived at Reflection Lakes with the Holbrook file tucked under her arm. The thick folder was full of dead ends and broken hearts. She'd hoped never to open it again. Tobias met her at the trailhead. His face was grim. "Show me," Rosa said. They walked to the Beaver Dam in silence. Tobias pointed to where he'd found the badge. Rosa took photos from every angle. Then she bagged the evidence with careful hands. "We need to talk to the family again," she said. "They deserve to know." An hour later, they sat in Luna Holbrook Martinez's kitchen. Luna was 34 now, with her mother's kind eyes and her father's strong jaw. She held the evidence bag like it might break. "I can't believe it," Luna whispered. "After all this time..." "Luna, I need to ask some hard questions," Rosa said gently. "About your mother's state of mind before she disappeared." Luna's husband, Carlos, squeezed her hand. "Tell them, love. They need to know the truth." Luna took a shaky breath. Mum was carrying a terrible secret. She blamed herself for a patient's death. Rosa leaned forward. "Tell me about it." His name was Walter Finch. He was 83 years old. Very sick. Mom was his nurse during his last week at Sacred Heart Hospital. Luna stood and walked to the window. There was a mistake with his medicine. Mom gave him the wrong dose. Walter died that night. "But the hospital cleared her, right?" Tobias asked. "Yes, but Mom didn't care. She said she'd killed him. She couldn't forgive herself." Carlos spoke up. "The hospital review board said it wasn't her fault. The doctor's handwriting was messy. Anyone could have made the same mistake." "Mom didn't see it that way," Luna continued. "She quit her job the next day. 35 years of nursing, and she threw it all away because of one mistake." Rosa made notes. "How long was this before she disappeared?" 6 months. Those were the worst 6 months of her life." Luna returned to the table, her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She kept saying Walter's family would never forgive her. "Did she see a doctor? Get help?" "We tried, but Mom was stubborn. She said she didn't deserve to feel better." Rosa opened the old file. "Your mother's friend Iris Patel gave us some information back then. She mentioned your mom was acting strange. Iris knew her better than anyone. They were friends for 20 years. Tobias spoke gently. "Is Iris still around? We should talk to her. She lives 2 blocks away. I'll call her." 30 minutes later, Iris Patel sat across from them. She was a small woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She'd been crying. "I should have stopped her," Iris said. "I knew she was in trouble." "Tell us about those last few weeks," Rosa said. Iris wiped her eyes. "Meredith came to my house every day. She kept talking about Walter Finch. About how she'd murdered him. Murdered? Tobias asked. That's the word she used. I told her it was an accident, but she wouldn't listen. She said good nurses don't make mistakes like that. What else did she say? She talked about making things right, about how Walter deserved better. She was obsessed with the idea that she'd stolen his peaceful death. Rosa looked up from her notes. Did she ever mention suicide? The room went quiet. Luna started crying softly. Not directly, Iris said, but she talked about joining Walter, about how death might be the only way to make up for what she'd done. What about her hiking? Tobias asked. Was that new? Oh no. Meredith hiked Mount Rainier for 15 years. It was her happy place. But after Walter died, she hiked differently. How so? She went alone more often, stayed out longer. Sometimes she'd hike the same trail 3 times in 1 week, like she was searching for something. Luna spoke through her tears. I found her hiking journal after she disappeared. The entries got darker and darker. She wrote about wanting to disappear into the mountain forever. Iris nodded. The last time I saw her, she hugged me for a long time. She said, "Take care of Luna for me." I thought it was strange, that you didn't think she was saying goodbye, Rosa finished. I should have known. I was a nurse too. I should have seen the signs. Carlos brought tissues for everyone. There's something else, he said quietly. What? Rosa asked. Luna looked at her husband. Should we tell them? Tell us what? Tobias said. Luna got up and walked to a desk drawer. She pulled out a sealed envelope. Mom left this with her lawyer. Instructions were to give it to me if she ever went missing. Rosa stared at the envelope. Have you opened it? No. I was too scared. What if it's a suicide note? Luna, Iris said softly, maybe it's time. Luna held the envelope with shaking hands. The seal was still unbroken after 5 years. What if she really did kill herself? What if we find her body and learn she died hating herself? Rosa stood up. Or what if this envelope has answers that could help us find the truth? Luna looked around the room at the faces of people who loved her mother. I need to think about it. Of course, Rosa said. But Luna, finding that badge changes everything. Your mother might still be alive somewhere. Or, Luna whispered, we might finally learn how she died. The envelope sat on the table like a time bomb. Inside it were words from a woman who'd vanished into thin air, words that might hold the key to everything. But some doors once opened can never be closed again. The next morning, Rosa stood at the edge of Reflection Lakes with Dr. Kai Nakamura. The scientist wore hiking boots and carried a waterproof tablet. His job was to study how water moved through the mountain. So you think this badge traveled through the water system? Rosa asked. Dr. Nakamura nodded. Water is like a highway up here. Everything flows downhill, but the path isn't always straight. He showed Rosa a map on his tablet. Look here, Reflection Lakes connects to 3 different creek systems. During heavy rains, water flows everywhere. Tobias joined them, carrying rope and climbing gear. Where do we start looking? The badge was heavy, Dr. Nakamura explained. It would have moved slowly. Probably got stuck many times before ending up in that Beaver Dam. Rosa studied the map. So we follow the water backward? Exactly, like reading a story in reverse. They started hiking up the main creek that fed into Reflection Lakes. The water was clear and cold. It bubbled over rocks and fallen logs. After an hour of walking, Tobias spotted something. There! He pointed to a gap between 2 large boulders. Wedged in the rocks was a blue water bottle. The plastic was faded and cracked from years of sun and snow. Rosa pulled it out carefully. The label was barely readable, but she could make out part of a name. M. Holbrook. This is hers, Rosa said. I'm sure of it. Dr. Nakamura took photos. This confirms my theory. The badge and bottle traveled the same path. Tobias unscrewed the cap. Inside was a piece of paper rolled up tight. The ink had run from water damage, but some words were still clear. Rosa read the fragments out loud. "Can't live with what I've done. Walter deserved better. Forgive me." The three of them stood in silence. The mountain air felt colder suddenly. "It's like a message in a bottle," Tobias said quietly. "A goodbye message," Rosa added. Dr. Nakamura pointed upstream. "If these items came from up there, we need to keep looking." They hiked for another 2 hours. The trail got steeper and more dangerous. Finally, they reached a place where the creek split into 2 branches. "Which way?" Rosa asked. Tobias was studying the ground. "Wait, look at this." Half hidden under some ferns were 2 hiking poles. They were red and silver, with worn rubber grips. Rosa checked her notes. Luna said her mother always carried red hiking poles. "These have been here for years," Tobias said. He picked them up carefully. "The metal is rusted, but they're still in good shape." Dr. Nakamura was excited. "We're getting close to the source." The water that carried these items down the mountain had to start somewhere nearby. They followed the left branch of the creek. The path became a steep climb over slippery rocks. After 30 minutes, they reached a hidden ravine. "Look down there," Tobias said. The ravine was deep and narrow. Trees grew thick on both sides, blocking out most of the sunlight. At the bottom, a small stream flowed over smooth stone. "I see something," Rosa said. She pointed to a splash of bright blue caught in some fallen logs. Tobias tied his rope to a strong tree. "I'm going down." "Be careful," Rosa called as he rappelled into the ravine. At the bottom, Tobias found a backpack tangled in dead branches. It was blue with yellow trim. The same colors Luna had described. "It's hers," he called up. Rosa's heart pounded. "What's inside?" Tobias opened the pack carefully. Clothes, a first aid kit, some energy bars that are totally spoiled. "Anything else?" Tobias kept digging. "There's a plastic bag. Something's inside it." He pulled out a bundle of photographs. They were torn into pieces, but he could see parts of faces and smiles. "Family photos," he called. "But they're all ripped up." "What else?" "Pill bottles. Empty ones." Tobias read the labels. "Antidepressants. Sleeping pills. All prescribed to Meredith Holbrook." Rosa felt sick. She was taking medication for depression. "Looks like it." But Luna never mentioned this. Dr. Nakamura leaned over the edge. "There's something else down there, behind those rocks." Tobias moved deeper into the ravine. "I see it. It's white. Looks like paper." He reached behind a large boulder and pulled out a waterproof envelope. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. "What does it say?" Rosa called. Tobias read slowly. "My dearest Luna, by the time you read this, I will have joined Walter in whatever comes next. I cannot carry this guilt anymore. I killed a good man through my carelessness. His family trusted me to care for him, and I failed. I am not worthy of forgiveness. Please don't blame yourself. This is my choice. I love you more than life itself. Mom." The silence in the ravine was complete. Even the stream seemed to stop flowing. "She planned it," Rosa whispered. "She came here to die." But Tobias was looking around the ravine with new eyes. "Wait a minute. Something's not right here." "What do you mean?" "If she came here to die 5 years ago, where is she? Where are her remains?" Dr. Nakamura called down. "Maybe animals scattered them?" "No," Tobias said firmly. "I found lots of remains in these mountains. There's always something left. Bones, clothes, something." He searched the entire bottom of the ravine. "There's nothing here. No skeleton, no more clothes, nothing." Rosa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. "So what happened to her?" Tobias looked up at his colleagues. I don't think she died here. I think something else happened. Like what? I don't know, but this ravine tells a story of someone who came here to die, but didn't. From the bottom of the ravine, Tobias made the discovery that would change everything. Hidden under a pile of old leaves was something that didn't belong in nature. "Rosa," he called, "you need to see this." "What is it?" "Fresh footprints in the mud by the stream, and they're recent." The implications hit them all at once. If there were fresh footprints in this hidden ravine, it meant someone had been here recently. Someone who knew about this secret place. Someone who might know what really happened to Meredith Holbrook. Rosa rappelled down into the ravine to see the footprints for herself. They were clear in the soft mud beside the stream. Bootprints, size 7. The same size Meredith wore. "These can't be more than a week old," Tobias said. Dr. Nakamura called down from above. The storm last week would have washed away anything older. Rosa felt her pulse quicken. So someone was here after the storm. Recently, Tobias was already moving deeper into the ravine. If someone's been here, there might be other signs. They searched every inch of the narrow space. Behind a thick curtain of hanging vines, Tobias found something that made his breath catch. "Rosa, come here. Now." Hidden in an alcove was a shelter. Not just a pile of branches, but a carefully built structure. Logs formed the walls. Pine boughs made a thick roof. Rocks created a fire ring in front. "This took time to build," Rosa said. "Lots of time." Inside the shelter was a bed made from dried grass and ferns. A stack of flat stones served as a table. Tin cans sat in neat rows along one wall. "Someone's been living here," Tobias said. Rosa examined the cans. "These are old, but not 5 years old. Maybe 2 or 3 years. On the stone table were Meredith's reading glasses. The frames were cracked, but still wearable. "She survived," Rosa whispered. "Somehow she survived." Dr. Nakamura climbed down to join them. "This is incredible. Look at this construction. Whoever built this knew what they were doing." "Meredith was a nurse," Rosa said. "But did she know wilderness survival?" Tobias pointed to the fire ring. "These ashes are cold, but not ancient. Someone used this fire recently." He knelt by the stream. "Dr. Nakamura, come look at this water source." The scientist tested the stream with a small kit. "It's perfect. Clean, fresh, flows year-round." "This is why they chose this spot." "They?" Rosa asked. "Look at the footprints again. There are 2 different sizes, 2 different boot treads." Rosa's mind raced. Someone else was here. Someone helped her. They searched the shelter more carefully. Behind the bed, Tobias found a small journal wrapped in plastic. The pages were filled with Meredith's handwriting. Rosa read the first entry aloud. "Day 1. I should be dead, but the old man found me. Says his name is Ezra. Says I can't die yet. Don't know if I want to live, but too weak to argue." "Ezra," Tobias repeated. "Someone named Ezra saved her." Rosa flipped through more pages. "Listen to this. Day 15. Ezra taught me to build a fire without matches. Says I need to learn if I'm going to stay in the mountains. Don't know why I'm staying. Don't deserve to live after what I did to Walter. She was suicidal, but someone convinced her to survive," Dr. Nakamura said. Rosa continued reading. Day 30. Ezra told me his story today. Vietnam veteran. Lost his whole unit in an ambush. Says guilt is a poison that only kills the person carrying it. Says Walter wouldn't want me to die over his death. Don't know if I believe him yet. Tobias found more evidence around the shelter. "Look at this." Behind a tree was a cache of supplies. Canned food, medical supplies, batteries, rope. Everything someone would need to survive in the wilderness. This is recent, Rosa said, checking expiration dates. Some of this food expires next year, so they're still active, still using this place. Dr. Nakamura was studying the shelter with professional interest. This shows incredible skill. They used natural insulation, proper water drainage, wind protection. This isn't amateur work. Rosa kept reading the journal. Day 90, found an injured deer today. Ezra says I can use my nursing skills to help it. Felt good to heal something instead of destroying it. Maybe there's still some good I can do in this world. She was finding purpose again, Tobias said softly. Day 1880. Luna got married today. I watched from the hilltop above the church. She looked so beautiful. Wanted to run down and hug her, but I don't deserve that happiness. Ezra says I'm wrong, but I can't face her yet. Not after what I've done. Rosa stopped reading. She was watching her own daughter's wedding from hiding. That was 3 years ago, Tobias said. She's been alive this whole time. Dr. Nakamura found something else. There are trails leading out of here. Faint, but definitely human-made. They followed the trails and found more evidence of long-term habitation. Food storage areas, tool caches, signs that 2 people had been living in these mountains for years. Where are they now, Rosa wondered. Tobias was studying the most recent footprints. These lead deeper into the forest, away from any regular hiking trails. Rosa radioed for backup. We need search teams, dogs if possible. If Meredith is alive, we need to find her. But as they prepared to leave the shelter, Rosa made one more discovery. Hidden under some loose stones was a recent entry in Meredith's journal. Last week, rangers found my badge at Reflection Lakes. Know they'll come looking now. Ezra says it's time to face the truth. 5 years of hiding won't bring Walter back. 5 years of guilt won't heal his family. Maybe it's time to go home. But what if Luna can't forgive me for disappearing? What if I've hurt her more by staying away than I ever hurt Walter by making that mistake? Rosa looked up at her colleagues. She knows we're looking, she's been watching us. Tobias felt the hair on his neck stand up. You think she's watching us right now? They all looked around the quiet forest. Birds sang in the trees. The stream bubbled peacefully. Everything looked normal. But somewhere in these mountains, a woman who'd been dead to the world for 5 years was very much alive, and she was making a decision that would change everything. The question was, would she choose to come home, or would she disappear even deeper into the wilderness? Either way, Rosa knew one thing for certain. Meredith Holbrook was no longer just a missing person. She was a woman who'd built a new life in the shadow of her old guilt. And tomorrow, they would have to find her before she made her final choice. The search team arrived at dawn. 6 rangers, 2 dogs, and Detective Rosa Salvatore spread out through the forest. They followed the faint trails leading away from Meredith's shelter. Tobias led the way with his dog, a German shepherd named Scout. The animal moved confidently through the thick trees, nose to the ground. After 2 hours of hiking, Scout stopped and whined. His ears perked up. Something was ahead. Easy, boy, Tobias whispered. Through the trees they could see smoke rising from a hidden valley. Not much smoke, just a thin grey line against the blue sky. Rosa signaled the team to spread out. They moved quietly down the slope. At the bottom was another camp, bigger than the first one. A man sat by a small fire stirring something in a metal pot. He was old, maybe 75, with a long grey beard and clothes that had seen many seasons. He looked up as they approached, but he didn't seem surprised. Took you long enough, he said calmly. Rosa stepped forward, her hand near her gun. Are you Ezra? The old man smiled. Ezra Blackwood, though most folks just call me the crazy hermit who lives in the woods. Where is Meredith Holbrook? Ezra studied Rosa's face. You're the detective who looked for her 5 years ago. That's right. Is she here? She's gathering berries about a mile north. Should be back soon. Ezra poured coffee from his pot into a cracked mug. You want some? It's been a long hike. Tobias couldn't believe how calm the man was. Sir, do you understand that Meredith Holbrook is a missing person? Her family thinks she's dead. Ezra's face grew sad. I know exactly what her family thinks, and I know how much pain that's caused. Rosa sat down across from him. Then why didn't you bring her back? Because she wasn't ready. Hell, for the first year, I wasn't sure she'd survive at all. Tell us what happened, Rosa said gently. Ezra stared into his coffee. It was December, 5 years ago, coldest winter we'd had in decades. I was checking my trap lines when I heard crying. He pointed toward the ravine where they'd found the shelter. Found her down there, hypothermic, delirious. She kept saying she wanted to die, kept apologizing to someone named Walter. What did you do? What any decent human would do. I carried her back here and saved her life. Tobias asked. Why didn't you call for help? Ezra laughed, but there was no humor in it. Son, I've been living off the grid for 30 years. Haven't talked to the outside world since 1995. Don't trust it much. But you could have. Could have what? Turned her over to doctors who would have locked her up. She didn't need a hospital. She needed time to heal her soul. Rosa leaned forward. Tell us about those first months. Ezra's eyes grew distant. She was broken. Completely broken. Would barely eat. Wouldn't talk for weeks. I had to watch her every second to make sure she didn't try to hurt herself. How did you get through to her? Time. Patience. And honestly, I think we saved each other. What do you mean? Ezra rolled up his sleeve. On his arm was a faded tattoo. 73rd Airborne. Below it were names written in small letters. Vietnam, 1968. I was the only one in my unit who came home. Spent 30 years in these mountains wondering why I deserved to live when they didn't. Rosa understood. Survivor's guilt. Exactly. Meredith thought she was a killer because of one mistake. I knew I was a killer because of 100 right decisions. We were both carrying ghosts. Tobias heard footsteps approaching through the forest. Scout's tail wagged. That'll be her now, Ezra said quietly. A woman emerged from the trees carrying a cloth bag full of berries. She was thin and weathered, with grey hair braided down her back. Her clothes were patched and worn, but clean. She moved with the confident step of someone who belonged in the wilderness. When she saw the rangers and detective, she stopped. Her face went pale. Hello, Meredith, Rosa said softly. For a long moment, nobody moved. Meredith looked at Ezra, who nodded encouragingly. How did you find me? She asked. Her voice was rusty from years of speaking only to one person. Your badge. Tobias found it in a beaver dam. Meredith smiled sadly. I lost that badge in the stream 3 years ago. Always wondered where it ended up. Rosa stood slowly like she was approaching a wild animal. Your daughter is looking for you. She never stopped hoping. Tears filled Meredith's eyes. Luna. Is she happy? She's married, has a good husband named Carlos. But she's not complete without her mother. I can't face her, not after what I've done. Not after letting her think I was dead for 5 years. Ezra spoke up. Meredith, we've talked about this. Hiding won't bring Walter back, but I killed him, Ezra. I gave him the wrong medicine and he died. Rosa pulled out a folder she'd brought. Meredith, there are things you don't know, things that happened after you disappeared. What things? Walter Finch's family. They wrote letters to the hospital about you. Meredith stepped back like she'd been slapped. What kind of letters? Thank you letters. They wanted to tell you how grateful they were for your care during Walter's final days. That's impossible. Rosa opened the folder. Walter had terminal cancer. He was in constant pain. The family said you were the only nurse who treated him with real kindness. But the medicine you gave him made his last hours peaceful. His grandson wrote that Walter said an angel with kind eyes helped him see heaven. Meredith sank to the ground. 5 years of guilt crashed over her like a wave. The letters were misfiled, Rosa continued. You never received them. You've been carrying guilt for something that was actually a mercy. Ezra knelt beside Meredith. You see, I told you Walter wouldn't want you to suffer, but I still made a mistake. Mistakes don't make you a monster, Meredith. They make you human. Tobias spoke gently. Your daughter needs to know you're alive. She needs her mother. Meredith looked around at the forest that had been her home. What if she can't forgive me for staying away? What if she can? Rosa asked. In the distance they could hear a helicopter approaching. More search teams, following up on Rosa's radio call. Decision time, Ezra said. You can run deeper into the mountains, or you can go home and face the music. Meredith closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had changed. The woman who had fled into the wilderness 5 years ago was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Will you come with me, Ezra? I don't think I can do this alone. The old hermit smiled. Wouldn't miss it for the world. As the helicopter landed in a nearby clearing, Meredith Holbrook prepared to return from the dead. But the hardest part wasn't over yet. She still had to tell her daughter why she'd chosen to stay hidden for 5 long years. The helicopter ride down the mountain felt like a journey through time. Meredith pressed her face to the window, watching the world she'd left behind grow larger below. Cities, roads, houses, people living normal lives while she'd been hiding in the wilderness like a ghost. You okay? Ezra asked, sitting beside her. Meredith's hands shook. What if she hates me? She won't. I let her think I was dead for 5 years, Ezra. What kind of mother does that? The kind who was too broken to see straight. But you're not broken anymore. Rosa spoke into her radio. We're bringing her to the ranger station first. Luna is meeting us there. Meredith's stomach dropped. She's already coming. She's been waiting by the phone for 5 years. The moment we called, she jumped in her car. When they landed, Meredith could see a small crowd waiting. Luna stood beside a tall man who must be Carlos. Iris was there too, crying before Meredith even stepped out of the helicopter. I can't do this, Meredith whispered. Ezra took her arm gently. Yes, you can. You've survived grizzly bears and mountain storms. You can survive a conversation with your daughter. The helicopter door opened. Meredith stepped onto solid ground for the first time in 5 years. Luna stood frozen 50 feet away. Mother and daughter stared at each other across a distance that felt like an ocean. Meredith looked older, thinner, weathered by wind and sun. But her eyes were the same eyes Luna remembered from childhood. Mom? Luna's voice was barely a whisper. Hello, sweetheart. Luna took one step forward, then another. Then she was running, tears streaming down her face. They collided in the middle of the parking lot. Meredith wrapped her arms around her daughter and held on like she was drowning. I'm sorry, Meredith sobbed. I'm so sorry. Luna pulled back to look at her mother's face. Are you real? This isn't a dream. I'm real. I'm here. I thought you were dead. For 5 years I thought you were dead. The words hit Meredith like physical blows. I know, and I'm sorry. Carlos approached slowly. Mrs. Holbrook. I'm Carlos, Luna's husband. Meredith studied his face. Kind eyes, strong hands, the look of a man who loved her daughter. You take good care of her. I try to. Iris rushed forward and hugged Meredith tight. You stubborn old fool. Do you have any idea what you put us through? I know, I was wrong. Rosa cleared her throat. Maybe we should go inside, give you some privacy. They gathered in the ranger station's conference room. Meredith sat across from Luna, still not quite believing this was real. Tell me, Luna said. Tell me everything. Meredith looked at Ezra, who nodded encouragingly. Then she began the hardest story of her life. She told Luna about Walter Finch, about the guilt that ate her alive, about coming to Mount Rainier to die.
You came here to kill yourself?
Luna's voice broke. I thought it was the only way to make things right. How would your death make anything right? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. Meredith told her about Ezra finding her, nearly frozen to death. About the long months of learning to survive, about slowly finding purpose again by helping injured animals. You've been alive this whole time, Luna said. Living in the mountains while I planned your funeral. I wanted to come back. So many times I almost did. Why didn't you? Meredith's voice was small. Because I was a coward. Because I thought you were better off without me. Better off? Luna stood up, anger finally breaking through. Better off thinking my mother was dead. Better off wondering if I could have saved you. Luna, do you know what I've been through? Do you know I blamed myself for not seeing how much pain you were in? Meredith felt like she was drowning again. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You hurt all of us. Carlos put his hand on Luna's shoulder. Love, maybe we should. No. Luna turned back to her mother. I need to say this. I need you to understand. Meredith braced herself. I spent 2 years in therapy, learning how to grieve you. I had panic attacks every time someone went hiking alone. I couldn't listen to your favorite songs or eat your favorite foods without breaking down. Each word was like a knife. Meredith had known her disappearance would hurt Luna, but she'd never imagined this depth of damage. But you know what the worst part was? Luna continued. The not knowing. Wondering if you suffered. Wondering if you called my name before you died. Wondering if I could have found you and saved you. Meredith was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And then Luna's voice softened. I found out I was pregnant. Meredith looked up in shock. Pregnant? Due in 4 months. A little girl. Luna sat back down. I cried for hours when I found out, because I wanted to tell you so badly. I wanted my mom to help me pick out baby clothes and teach me how to change diapers. Rosa quietly placed the sealed envelope on the table, the letter Meredith had left with her lawyer. Maybe it's time, Rosa said gently. Luna stared at the envelope. I've been afraid to open this for 5 years. What is it? Meredith asked. Your suicide note. The one you left with Mr. Peterson. Meredith had forgotten about the letter. Luna, don't read that. It was written by a woman who'd lost her mind. I need to read it. I need to understand. With shaking hands, Luna opened the envelope. She read silently, tears falling on the paper. When she finished, she looked at her mother with new eyes. You really thought Walter's family blamed you? Yes. Luna pulled out the folder Rosa had shown Meredith. Then you need to read these. Meredith took the thank you letters from Walter's family. As she read, her face changed. 5 years of guilt began to crack and crumble. They were grateful, she whispered. They said you were an angel. But I made a mistake. You made his death peaceful. You gave his family the gift of watching him die without pain. Meredith set the letters down. All this time, all these years of hiding, all for nothing, Luna finished. They sat in silence, both women processing 5 years of pain and misunderstanding. Finally, Luna spoke. Are you coming home, Mom? Meredith looked at her daughter, then at Ezra, then back at Luna. If you'll have me. Of course I'll have you. But things are different now. I'm different. You're different.
I know.
And you're going to be a grandmother. For the first time in 5 years, Meredith smiled a real smile. What are you naming her? Luna smiled back through her tears. I was thinking, Hope. 3 weeks later, Meredith sat in a doctor's office wearing clean clothes that felt strange against her skin. The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, finished checking her blood pressure. Remarkable, Dr. Chen said. 5 years in the wilderness, and you're healthier than most people half your age. Clean living, Meredith said with a small smile. Your blood work is perfect. Heart rate excellent. You've got the muscle tone of someone who works out every day. Chopping wood and hauling water will do that. Dr. Chen sat down. But I'm more interested in how you're doing up here. She tapped her temple. Meredith thought about it. Better, much better than when I left. The mountains gave me time to heal. And now, coming back to civilization. Scary. Everything's so loud, so fast. But I have reasons to stay now. Through the window, Meredith could see Luna and Carlos in the waiting room. Luna's pregnancy was starting to show. Her granddaughter was growing. The trauma counselor wants to see you next week, Dr. Chen said. I know. Luna insists. Smart, daughter. The smartest. After the appointment, they drove to Luna's house. It was a small blue cottage with a white fence and flowers in the yard. Nothing fancy, but it looked like home. Ezra's already here, Carlos said, pulling into the driveway. The old mountain man sat on the front porch, looking uncomfortable in borrowed clothes. He'd agreed to stay in town for a few weeks to help Meredith adjust. How'd it go? He asked. Doctor says I'm disgustingly healthy for a dead woman, Meredith replied. Luna opened the front door. Good. Because we have visitors. Inside, the living room was full of people. Iris sat on the couch, beaming. Next to her was an elderly man Meredith didn't recognize. Mum, Luna said nervously. This is Mr. Henry Finch, Walter's son. Meredith's blood turned to ice. Walter's family. Here, in Luna's living room, Henry Finch stood up slowly. He was maybe 70, with kind eyes and Walter's same gentle smile. Mrs. Holbrook, he said, I've been wanting to meet you for 5 years. Meredith couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. It's okay, Mom, Luna said softly. He came here to thank you. Henry reached into his jacket and pulled out a small wooden box. My father left this for you, with instructions to give it to the nurse with kind eyes who helped him pass peacefully. Meredith's hands shook as she took the box. Inside was a silver locket on a thin chain. Open it, Henry said. The locket held a tiny photo of Walter smiling and an engraving, for the angel who showed me heaven. Thank you. But he had this made the day before he died, Henry explained. He told us about you, how you held his hand when he was scared, how you sang to him when the pain was bad. Meredith was crying now. But I gave him the wrong medicine. You gave him exactly what he needed. Peace. Dignity. Love in his final moments. Henry sat down beside her. Mrs. Holbrook, my father was suffering terribly. The cancer was eating him alive. The medicine you gave him let him see his grandchildren one last time without screaming in pain. We looked for you after he died, another voice said. Meredith looked up. A young woman stood in the doorway holding the hand of a little boy. I'm Sarah Walter's granddaughter. This is my son Matthew. The little boy, maybe 6 years old, stepped forward shyly. Great-grandpa told me about the nice nurse before he went to heaven. Are you her? Meredith knelt down to his level. I think so. He said you had magic hands that took away hurt. Oh, sweetheart. And he said if I ever met you, I should say thank you for helping him not be scared. Meredith pulled the little boy into a gentle hug. 5 years of guilt melted away completely. Tell me about your great-grandpa, she said. Matthew's face lit up. He taught me to fish, and he made the best pancakes. And he told the funniest jokes, even when he was in the hospital. He sounds wonderful. He was. And he said the angel nurse made sure he could tell us he loved us one more time before he went to see Jesus. Meredith looked around the room at Walter's family. All these years, she'd imagined them hating her. Instead, they'd been grateful. "We brought something else," Sarah said. She handed Meredith a manila envelope. Inside were dozens of letters, thank you cards, photos of Walter with his family, a copy of his obituary that mentioned the compassionate nursing staff who made his final days peaceful. "The hospital lost these somehow," Henry said. "We only found them when we cleaned out Dad's room last month. They were all addressed to you." Meredith read through the letters, each one a piece of forgiveness she'd never received. Walter's wife, thanking her for the extra time she'd given them. His children grateful for his peaceful passing. His grandchildren who got to say goodbye without watching him suffer. "All this time," Meredith whispered, "all this pain was for nothing." "Not for nothing," Ezra said from his corner. "Pain teaches us things we can't learn any other way." Rosa Salvatore spoke up from the kitchen doorway. She'd been quietly watching the reunion. "Meredith, there's one more thing." She handed Meredith a folder. "We contacted the hospital about your case. They want to offer you something." "What?" "Your job back, if you want it. They said the nursing staff needs someone with your experience. I'm 72 years old. I've been gone for 5 years, and you've learned wilderness medicine, trauma care. You've kept yourself and Ezra healthy in conditions that would kill most people." Luna sat down beside her mother. "What do you think, Mom?" Meredith looked around the room. At her daughter, growing round with new life. At Walter's family, who'd carried gratitude for 5 years. At Ezra, who'd saved her life and taught her to live again. At the thank you letters that proved she'd been a healer, not a killer. "I think," she said slowly, "that I'd like to try something different." "Like what?" Luna asked. "The Wildlife Rehabilitation Center needs volunteers. People who understand both medicine and wilderness survival." Ezra smiled. "Saving critters instead of people." "Saving anyone who needs it," Meredith said. "People, animals, doesn't matter. Healing is healing." Henry Finch stood up. "My father would like that. He always said you had a gift." As the afternoon wore on, the room filled with stories. Walter's family shared memories of a man who'd lived fully and died peacefully. Meredith told them about the mountains, about learning to survive, about finding purpose in helping injured wildlife. When evening came, most of the visitors had left. Only Luna, Carlos, Ezra, and Meredith remained. "Mum," Luna said, "there's one last thing." She handed her mother a small wrapped box, an early Christmas present. Inside was a new nurse's badge. It read, "Meredith Holbrook, RN, Wildlife Rehabilitation Volunteer." "How did you—" "I had it made special for your new job." Meredith pinned the badge to a shirt, right where her old one used to be. It felt right, like coming home. That night, as she lay in the guest room of her daughter's house, Meredith thought about the journey that had brought her here. The badge Tobias had found in the Beaver Dam had started it all. But it wasn't the only thing the beavers had preserved. The next morning, Rosa called with one final discovery. "We went back to the Beaver Dam," she said. "There was something else buried underneath where we found your badge." "What?" "A waterproof container, with all those thank you letters from Walter's family inside. They'd been in your backpack when you fell in the ravine 5 years ago." Meredith sat down hard. The letters were in the dam this whole time. The beavers had built around them, like they were protecting them. Meredith understood now. The secret in the Beaver Dam wasn't just her badge. It was forgiveness itself, preserved in mud and water, waiting 5 years for the right moment to surface. The mountains had taken her guilt and given back her purpose. The beavers had saved the very words that could have prevented her pain. keeping them safe until she was ready to hear them. The beavers knew, she said to herself. Somehow they knew. Luna appeared in the doorway, rubbing her growing belly. "Mom?" Who was on the phone? Meredith smiled and put her arm around her daughter. "Just someone telling me that everything happens for a reason." Outside the window, Mount Rainier stood tall against the morning sky. Somewhere up there, a beaver dam held the last pieces of Meredith's old life. But here, in her daughter's warm kitchen, her new life was just beginning. And in 4 months, when little Hope arrived, she would have a grandmother who'd learned that sometimes you have to get lost to find your way home. And that's how a simple badge in a beaver dam brought a family back together and showed us that sometimes the very thing we need to heal has been waiting for us all along. Where are you listening from today? Drop a comment and let us know your city or country. We love hearing from our amazing listeners around the world. If this story of hope and second chances touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread more stories of kindness and hope to people who need them most. And don't go anywhere yet. Click on that video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible true story that will remind you why hope never dies. Until next time, remember that everyone deserves forgiveness, especially from themselves. Thanks for listening.